Wonderful.
Hello.
Yeah, Ketan. Thanks, Ketan. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. So I have just started the recording now. Penny, are you able to hear me? You kind of got disconnected again. Join back. Penny, are you able to hear me properly now?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Wonderful. All right. Thank you. So now let us move on. Okay, so we have waited enough now, so let us continue. Okay. So, so as I was kind of giving you a brief kind of introduction about this course yesterday. So initial part we will be only covering the core Java part. Okay, so when I say Java, it is going to be core Java. Remember. Okay, so we will be only talking about core Java over here, right? So this core Java. See, because when I say Java, so Java has many flavors. There are a lot of technologies again in Java, right? So there's basically the core Java, which is core for everything, and then you have J2EE, which is basically the advanced Java people tell Enterprise Edition. Basically, that is for the web technologies, right? So then we have servlets. Then we have JSPs. So all these are part of the J2EE. And then you have J2ME. Basically, this is for the mobile technologies, right? So, but when we say Java over here, we are only concerned about the core Java part of it, because this is the language. This is the programming language. Okay. So these are all used for development of web applications, on the client side. Okay. So mainly the core Java is required, even if you're trying to learn down the line. Even if you're trying to learn down the line, J2EE or J2ME or any of the web technologies, for all of that, core Java is the foundation. Okay, so you need to learn this, right? And the fortunate thing is the Selenium tool, which you're going to learn down the line, that is going to use only the core Java part of it. Okay, so that is why. So the initial part of this course will be only focusing on the core Java. I will assume that even if you don't know ABC of core Java, that is still fine. Okay, so that is still fine. So Swati, I can see you are getting connected from two devices. Is it true?
Yes, actually, I was trying to connect with my laptop now.
Okay.
Because on mobile the screen is very small, so in the
Yeah,
meanwhile I don't want to disconnect any of them. So if one get disconnected, I am able to see with another.
Correct. Not a problem. So yeah. So all right, I'm just answering some of these guys who are trying to join today. Okay. So the good part over here is the Selenium tool that we're going to use is also basically going to use the core Java. And that is why core Java is what we're trying to learn over here. So from now, when we say Java, it is going to be only the core Java part of it. Remember that. So when we say Java, by default, from now onwards, it's only the core Java. It is not servlets, JSPs, any of the other web technologies or mobile technologies. It's just the core Java part of it. Okay. All right, and from here, if you learn core Java, so you have multiple ways. Okay, so here you can learn Selenium automation tool and then get into QA automation, and then you can go on the development side. Maybe you can learn this web technologies and go on to the Java development side as well. Okay, so that is what it is. Okay, so initially. Okay, any questions, anybody over here? I'll take a pause. Any questions?
No, sir, no question. Can continue.
Okay, wonderful. Penny and Ash, you have any questions so far? Any clarifications in this?
No, all good here.
No.
Wonderful. All right. So let us move on now. All right. So first of all, so let me give you the big picture. Okay. So why are we trying to, I mean, what is the main, goal of this course? Why are we, learning this all together? As I said, one thing is you can learn core Java and later learn the Selenium automation tool, right? Get into QA, automation QA, or learn core Java and then learn some of the advanced Java and then move on to the, development side, right? So now we are trying to learn, core Java and Selenium over here. Okay. So now, first of all, why are we, kind of learning Selenium? Okay, so why are we trying to use Selenium? Why is that, we are trying to use Selenium as automation tool, right? And why is that, we have chosen Selenium along with core Java? Okay, so Selenium also supports some other programming languages. So you can also automate using, C#. You can also automate using Python. You can also, do it using, Ruby. You can also automate, Selenium, using JavaScript. Okay, so Selenium tool can be used for automation with any of these programming technologies. Okay, actually the list goes on. Okay, but why is that we are kind of choosing Java over here, that is core Java? Because the Selenium tool initially is written in Java, and Selenium with Java makes it a great combination. There are lots and lots of openings in the market where companies are looking for people who have got experience on Selenium using Java. But slowly I'm telling you, Python is also picking. Okay, and but it would at least take another, say, 4 to 5 years for people to use Python completely. I mean, it cannot replace Java as such, but at least it would at least be 4 to 5 years down the line wherein Python, maybe we can say that it is kind of giving competition to Java. Okay, but as of now it is Java still. So 85% of the world's software currently is still running using Java. You may be kind of shocked to hear this, right? So but whatever technologies that are coming, whatever applications that are getting built recently, right? So hey, hi Atria, are you able to hear me, Atria? Yeah, I saw that you kind of joined. Are you able to hear me, Atria? I can't hear you. Maybe
I can hear you. I can hear you.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you, Atria. Yeah. So 85% of the world's software is still running using Java. Okay. So, so the applications like artificial intelligence, machine learning. So these kind of applications which are getting developed currently in the market, so they are using Python as a language. Okay, for these kind of applications, especially around these areas like machine learning, artificial intelligence. Okay, these kind of languages people are trying to use Python. But however, hey, hi Hemant, are you able to hear me, Hemant? Yeah. Okay, all right. Thanks, Hemant, and good to see you back on the course. So we have a couple of people, from UK, Hemant. So we have Penny is there, Ash is there. They're also from UK, and even Atira is there. Okay, and now you are also from UK, right? Where are you joining from, Hemant?
I am from Oslo.
Okay. But more or less of the same time zone, right?
Yes, 1 hour ahead.
Okay. Then it's fine. Cool. I can also see Sangeeta. Hey, hi Sangeeta, how are you? I can see Sangeeta got joined. Can you hear me, Sangeeta? Okay, I cannot hear any response from her. So, yeah, Sangeeta, tell me. Okay. All right. Mahesh, are you able to hear me? Mahesh, are you able to hear me? Okay. So these are the initial days. I know, it is people are kind of slowly getting, settled. So don't worry. So initial once maybe from next week onwards, this won't be there. Yeah, Mahesh, I can't hear you, man, clearly. No. Yeah, your voice is very low and there's some disturbance also. Can you just check maybe your earphones, Mahesh, once? I feel there's some issue with that. Yeah. Can you hear me, Mahesh?
Yeah, I'm able to hear.
Okay, thanks, Mahesh. But still, there's a lot of disturbance, from your end when you speak. Anyways, looks like there's a issue with the, earphones. Maybe just check that out. Meanwhile, I will be keeping all of you on mute. Okay, and whenever you need to speak out, just unmute yourself and speak. Okay, thanks, Mahesh, for joining. Thanks all of you for joining. So let's continue wherever we were. So what I was saying is 85% of the word software is still being run using Java. Okay, only the applications which are getting developed nowadays, so they are mostly preferring Python, especially if they are from machine learning or artificial intelligence kind of applications. Otherwise, it is mostly the Java which is still the leader in the market. 85%. So now if you learn Java and Selenium, I'm telling you, at least for another 5 years, it will take care of your career. At least for 5 years. Okay. And it's not that all this 85% of the word software which is running on Java, suddenly it cannot be scrapped and, nobody would wish to rewrite them, right? Using Python or, any other languages. Even the other one that is picking up in the market is Node.js. Okay. So, but however, having said that, at least for 5-6 years, you can rest assured, you will get the jobs and you can automate, you can design frameworks and do POCs and all that. But down the line, slowly, you may have to learn, either Python or some of the other technologies as well. Okay, so but that is at least another after 5 to 6 years, not right now. Okay. So having said that, so now in the industry, okay, so in the QA industry, right? So what people are looking for is, so if you are just a simple manual tester, it is not going to help. Okay, only manual testing is not going to help. I am maybe making the statement. Some of you who are on manual testing may not be agreeing, or maybe you might be little, annoying with this, but that's a fact. Only manual testing is not going to help. So you have to, you kind of have managed so far, but it is required that industry wants a test engineer also to know at least one of the programming language. One language you should know. One language you should know. Right? You should know one programming language, and you should know one automation tool. Okay, so whether it is either Selenium or maybe any of the other UI automation or backend automation, at least one automation area you should be expertised. Okay, so one programming language, one automation tool, and then you are also expected to know at least a little bit of DB, one database, maybe Oracle or DB2, or nowadays you have this NoSQL databases, MongoDB, Cassandra, right? You should at least know one database, writing some basic queries, not up to a DBA level and all, at least writing some basic queries and all that. You should be knowing that. And then, of course, manual testing you should know. Okay, so there is no substitute for that. You should know the process. You should know what is testing is, how to write test cases, how to report defects, what is software development life cycle, some of the SDLC methodologies that we have. Okay, so what is test planning, test strategy, how do we report the defect, all of that. You should know all of that. Okay, so there is no alternate. I mean, you cannot escape from that. You should know that. But other than that, industry is looking these things from you. And then of course nowadays there is all web services, so at least you should be knowing how to test REST web services manually, as well as little bit of automation in that area. Okay. This is what is industry looking from all of you. When I say an automation engineer or a QA, this is what is expected. If you just say I just do manual testing, that may not run very long from now. Okay, so good that all of you have made this choice of learning automation, even though it's a little late, but it's good that right in time, so you're joining this. Okay. Hey, hi, I can see one person joining from a mobile. May I know who is that? 4746. Hi, who is this?
It is me. I joined from mobile also. It's Hemant.
Hey, hi Hemant. Okay, all right, no problem. Yeah, thanks. Okay. All right. So I really appreciate all of you have taken this decision of learning automation. At least it's a little late, but it's fine. Okay. So see, the beauty that this course is going to add to you is, see, you are going to learn core Java, which is basically going to suffice this need of a programming language. So because you are learning core Java over here, you can say that you know core Java, and after this course is over, you can go to any companies, attend any company interviews. Could it be, it could be Amazon or Microsoft or whatever company, you will be able to crack the interviews. To that level, I can assure you, I'll train you. And then you will also be learning Selenium, which is going to fill this gap. Okay. And so DB and REST is something that maybe you might have to spend some time and then try to get some exposure on that. But if you need some help on that, maybe I'll try to have few sessions just to give you some inputs on the database testing, as well as REST web services testing. Okay, so that maybe we can see that. That's not part of this course though, right? So that is what is the advantage of this course is. It is going to add two basic or very important building blocks of your career, okay, apart from your regular manual testing. Okay, now so let us talk a little bit of the big picture, and then we will from there maybe we can start with the Java and all. So I know some of you, especially Penny, Ash, and yeah, so let me just quickly let us do a check. Penny and even Swati for that matter has some exposure towards testing. Ketan has got sufficient experience. Harish is not there today, so let us keep him on hold. Binoy could not join today. He's a fresher. He said he'll join from next week. Sangeeta has got sufficient experience in testing. Saurabh also hasn't joined. Maybe he may join a little late. Ashley is basically from the operations side. Mahesh is from testing side. Hemant, I did not get a chance. Hemant, so you were also on the operations side or development side, or what is your expertise, Hemant? Yeah, Hemant, you may have to unmute. Hear me, Hemant? Yeah, Hemant, tell me, please. Yeah, what is your expertise, Hemant?
Yes, Martin. Yeah. I was earlier I was in the development phase, and now I work in the operations.
Okay, so you basically dev and operations. All right. Any exposure towards testing, Hemant?
It's like system testing I did.
Okay.
Function testing and system testing. Not
have you done any?
Done.
Okay. All right. No worries. Thanks. So So let us try to spend some time, initial maybe one session, to get the overview of testing, and then we will understand the big picture. See, if you don't understand the big picture, if I directly jump and start showing you writing some core Java programs, that won't be fair, believe me, right? So you should get the big picture, the overall end-to-end picture that you're going to learn in this course. What are the main contents that you're going to learn? And from there, if I start the core Java, that really makes a lot of sense, right? So just to start with, so let's try to understand, so what this testing is. How can we define software testing? Anybody would like to go for it? What is software testing? Anybody? How do you define it? Ash and Penny. So you are kind of maybe into development, but do you know what this testing is?
Yeah, I would define it as sort of quality assurance to check whether the software is functioning how it's supposed to. So you sort of look for bugs, and you test how it's supposed to work, and you also test some negative scenarios.
Wonderful. Wonderful. I'll take that. Yes. Anybody else would like to answer? How do you define software testing?
Sir, Ketan here. Hello. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Please go ahead.
Okay. Actually, software testing means we are checking the software as it is working as expected or not, and is there any defects or problems in it. Then we are finding those defects and try to resolve those defects by developers. So it is nothing but just checking the software that it is working as expected or as per the requirement.
Excellent. I'll take that, Ketan. Yes, I'll take that surely. Anybody else would like to answer? I just want to involve everybody, okay? This being the virtual classroom, right? So everybody should speak out, right? Otherwise, what happens is it becomes kind of, one-sided, right? So that's why I'll keep, taking some pauses in the middle, and then I would like everybody to, involve. Yeah. Any other answers, anybody? Okay, so more or less, whatever both of you said is right. All right. So what happens is, first of all, why do we have the softwares in the market? Why do we have a software application in the market? So any software application is developed to meet certain business needs, right? So the reason behind that is a business. To support some business, we use softwares. Okay. So now, when any software application is developed, now what happens is, basically there's some customer who basically wants to use a software for his business. What he will do, he will approach a company, let's say, IBM. He says that, boss, this is the way I'm currently doing my business. Can you please develop a software for me so that I can use it, and I can use it for my business, to support my business, so that I can maintain all my operations, inventory, accounts, all the stuff using the software. So IBM has to now develop the software application for this customer. Let us take the example of this guy as some bank, maybe Royal Bank of Scotland, right? So now this RBS has approached, IBM, and IBM has agreed to develop the software. So now what happens is, from the IBM side, so that they start, working on their development now. And then usually they form a team. So this is a big team. Okay, so the team will have few developers, few test engineers, right? And then few, operations guys, which are basically spread across multiple teams. And then there is something called as BS. Some of you are working as BS. I'm glad to hear that. Business analysts. Okay, so now this is a team which will basically start working on this project for, say some customer, XYZ customer, whoever it is. Now what happens is, so any software in the market which is there currently is because to support certain business. Always remember that, right? So now when the software is developed and given to the customer at the final stage, then customer will be using it for supporting his business. Now imagine that it's supposed to work in a particular manner, but it's not working as customer expected. Okay, now that is what we call it as a defect. Anything which is not working according to the requirements. So now see, initially when the Royal Bank of Scotland has finalized the project with IBM, they will give a big document. In this document, they would have mentioned, okay, this is the way our current accounts are working. This is the way our fixed deposits are working. This is the way our savings banks are working. This is the way our loans module department is working. So we want you to understand all this business and then develop a software for that. Now, this requirements which the customer gives to the company on the first hand in the beginning of the project, this is called as the business requirements. So these are the business requirements or customer requirements, CRS, customer requirements specification, or some people also call it as BRS, business requirement specifications. So now what is there in the CRS or BRS? All the information about the business is there. Okay, so now this company will have to basically understand these requirements and then develop the software for that. Right, so now IBM will have to do that. Okay, now so when IBM basically forms a team and then start working on the development of this application, imagine that they develop some application, right? And then you cannot simply, whatever the development team has developed over here, you cannot simply take it and give it to the customer. You have to ensure that this whatever application that has been developed, it is working according to the the requirements. Now these are the requirements. Imagine that these are the requirements, you've taken it, and according to the requirements the development team has developed the application. Now as a testing team, what we need to do is we need to ensure that whatever application that is developed, that is working according to the requirements or not, right? So this is what is testing is. So when we say testing, what is it? It is the process of identifying the defects, right? One-liner answer. It is a process wherein we ensure that everything is functioning according to the requirements, right? So maybe it's a very vast term. You can give any definition for that. Maybe in one line, if I have to give, it's a process of identifying the defects and ensure that everything is functioning according to the requirements in the application. So that's what testing is, right? So if anything is, so it's a process of identifying the defects. When I say process of identifying the defects, again the question comes, what is a defect then? How do you define a defect? So what's a defect? As some of you were mentioning rightly, defect is nothing but if the software is not behaving as per the requirements. For example, just to give, everybody starts with this example. Let me start with the same similar example. So you have your simple login page, so wherein you enter your username and then you enter your password. Then when you enter, click on OK button, you're expected to log in. But what is happening, maybe there's some issue and it's throwing some error saying that you cannot log in, or maybe your username or password is incorrect, something like that. So now this is, you're expected to log in and then you're not logging in. Or maybe if you click on a cancel button, whatever data that you entered should get cleared. Cancel is just like a clear. Now when you click, but nothing is getting cleared, it's still as it is. Okay, now this is what is, we say that not working according to the requirements. Okay, so now this is a defect because you're expected, it is expected to clear the data, but it's not clearing the data. That's what is a defect. So anything and everything which is not working according to the requirements is what we call it as a defect. Okay, remember that. So, and testing is the process of identifying all such defects. And you just identify the defects and move it across the development team, send it across to development team. Development team is responsible for fixing the defects. Okay, so now this is what is a big story, right? So business requirements are given by the customer and then the company will start working on that. Okay, the other thing is, now as a team, as a developer or as a testers, you will not be able to understand this business terminologies, right? So banking application, it is still okay. But what if it is a healthcare application, all the medical terms, Latin terms, insurance application, you may not be able to understand all that, right? So that is why, so we have a person in our team called as BA, the business analysts. So business analysts are kind of experts of that particular domain. Okay, so they are kind of well versed with that business. Okay, so these guys will help us to kind of clarify the requirements and then get the clarification. So they can help us to understand the business, more and more business. So then what this company does is, initially, they don't take the BRS or CRS and start the development, no. So this BRS and CRS will be converted into a document called as FSD, Functional Specification Document. As most of you might be hearing this term, FS. FS is nothing but your functional specifications, all the specs. In short words, we say specs. So specs are the functional specifications, is a document. In that document, everything will be there, meaning everything which is required for the development. This is how the login page should look like. This is where the logo should come. Username, password, this is how it should look like. When the user enters valid data, he should be allowed to log in. When he clicks on cancel, the data should get clear. The screenshot of the screen, and then all the requirements, what it should accept, what it should not accept. Username field should accept 2 to 8 characters. And it should only accept alphanumerics, no special characters. And it's a mandatory field. Similarly, some requirements for password. So all this information, you can get it from the FSD or the FS, functional specification. Now, functional specification is derived from the requirements, the business requirements, remember that. Ultimately, because it has to support the business, right? So anything which is not working according to the functional specifications is indirectly not going to help for the business. That is why anything which is not working according to the FS, that is what we say it as a defect and report that to the development team. The development team will fix it, and you again do one more round of testing and ensure that everything is working fine now, and then the application will be released to the customer. This is what is maybe a very big process in one line. Is that clear? I'm just taking this extra effort of telling all this, teaching all this, to help people who are not from the testing background. Maybe people who are from the testing background might find it very elementary, or maybe you might have kind of overlooked it also. And we are so busy in doing day-to-day activities, and maybe we are not that much keen to go deep dive into the process. But this is what is the fact is. Okay. Any questions so far? Anybody? Any questions? Any questions?
No, it makes sense to me.
All right, thanks, Ash. Penny, is that clear to you?
Yeah, that's clear. Thank you.
All right, wonderful. Anybody else? Hemant, do you have anything to say? Sangeeta, is it clear to you? Sangeeta?
Yes,
Can you hear me?
yes,
Okay,
yes,
thanks.
yes.
All right, thank you. Swati, so far, is it good for you? Swati?
Yes, I'm okay.
Wonderful, thank you. Ketan?
Yes, sir. I'm okay, sir. It's
Wonderful.
clear.
Wonderful, thank you. Mahesh?
Yes, sir. I'm okay.
Are you okay? Wonderful. Thank you, Mahesh. Thank you. All right. All right, guys. So let's move on. See, if you don't know this big picture, so then, if somebody asks you, why are you, learning Java and Selenium, you will not be able to justify that, right? So that's why, so this big picture is really required, believe me. Now to move on, a few more terminologies that you should be aware of when it comes to testing. So now what happens is, so when the development team develops the application, it's not that they develop entire application which is covering all the requirements and then develop an application and then give it to you for testing. No. So this is not the case. This was the case in earlier kind of development when IT kind of started. So we used to use this development methodology called as a waterfall model. So over here, we basically used to get the entire application developed by the development team, and then given it to you for testing, and then you were basically doing the testing, right? And then so development team used to develop the application, and then you do testing, and then release the application to the customer. But nowadays, we are more or less, most of the companies are following something called as agile, right? Or you might have heard Scrum. Now what is this? So when we say agile, the application is developed in a very, very small portions. Okay. So what the development team will do is, these are your requirements, for example, and the development team will take these requirements and then they develop a very small feature, 2-3 features, and give it to you for testing. Okay. So now as a testing team, what you'll be doing? Okay. First of all, so when the development team is developing the application, what is the testing team is going to do at that point in time is they will read these requirements, try to understand them, and then write something called as a test case. Very, very important. Most of you are from testing background. I do agree, but some of you are from non-testing background as well. That's why this session is kind of very important, for all of you. Okay, so the QA team will be writing, test cases. Now, what do you mean by a test case? Again, all of you might have written thousands of test cases by now, but maybe when I ask you what is a test case, how do you define it, you might be struggling, believe me. So what is a test case? Can anybody would like to define it? How do you define a test case? Anybody? What is a test case? Yeah. Anybody?
A
certain set of inputs, what is the expected output?
Wonderful. Yeah, Tira, you said that you basically be mentioning a certain set of inputs and what is expected, out of that when you feed that inputs. That's what the test case is. Okay, all right. Any other answers? I'll take that.
Yeah, so test case will tell you like what we are testing. Basically, it's like it's low level documentation based on test scenarios. So it will explain you the step by step process on what is the test steps and all basically.
I understand. I'll take that. Yes, thanks. Anybody else would like to answer? Ash and Penny, do you have any idea about what the test case is? I did not hear you, Ash. Were you saying something?
No, I mean, top of my head, I guess, meeting sort of, as what he said, a sort of specific requirement.
Correct.
Testing the specific, I suppose, part of the software against a specific requirement, against the desired outcome.
Wonderful. I'll take that. I do agree. Most of you are right. Mahesh, you would like to go for it? What's the test case is?
Yeah, sir. Test case is nothing but it's a set of conditions.
Mm-hmm.
The testers will determine that whether the application is working correctly or not.
Wonderful. Right. Correct. Thanks, Mahesh. Yes. So, yeah, all of you are right. All of you are, exactly right. So, so just to put it in a proper terms, see, what happens is now. Let us assume. Let us take the simple example of once again the login page. Okay, just to initially for a few days we'll try to stick onto this to understand the terminologies first. So you have username, you have password. Okay. Now, then there's a OK button here, and then as per the requirements, the logo of the customer should be over here. Now, when the application was developed by the development team, instead of putting the logo over here, they are putting the logo over here. Now, so is it a defect? Yes, it's a defect. anything and everything which is not designed or not functioning according to the requirements is a defect. Now the logo has to be placed over here. Now they are placing it over here. That's a defect. Okay, so now the password field should accept. For example, let us say that whenever you enter the password has to be masked, either stars, flowers, or dots, so that you don't see the plain text as a password. So now, but now if it is not getting masked, just imagine that if you're seeing the plain text, whatever you entered, that's a defect. And then when you enter the valid username and then enter a password which is invalid, that means the requirement says password should be between 5 to 8 characters, right? And then you try to enter some password which is not up to this. Just one example, okay, may not be suitable for this example, this particular scenario, but just imagine there's a field which is supposed to accept 5 to 8 characters. Now you're entering a set of characters which is more than 8. In case if that is accepted, that means it is not working according to the requirements. Right? So anything and everything which is not functioning according to the requirements, it's not working according to the requirements, which is deviating away from the requirements. Now that is what we call it as a defect. Okay, and we have to report that. So now the thing is, what we do is when the development team is doing the development, as a testing team, what we will do is we will identify, go through all the requirements, and then we will kind of write down, okay, I am going to test the password field with characters which are more than 8, which characters which are less than 5, and it says that it's a mandatory field. I'll just enter blank space and see whether it's taken or not, right? And whatever it is, maybe it is only alphanumerics, then maybe you'll enter some special characters and test. Having said all this, you have to test with a valid password as well, valid data. So you will be basically trying to test this particular field with valid data should be accepted, and the invalid data or the negative data is what with negative testing some of you were saying. So that should not be accepted. So why is this? Just to ensure that everything is working according to the requirements and nothing other than the requirements are accepted. Okay. So now what we do is when the development team is developing, we write that down. Literally we write it down. Okay. So when I enter a password which is more than 8 characters, it should not be accepted. So this is maybe your objective of testing that, right? And then whatever data that you want to enter for that, whatever is your expected condition out of that, you put that in an Excel file, or maybe you use some tools nowadays to put the test cases down. So now with all the steps, you say that, okay, open the browser, go to the Royal Bank of Scotland and enter this username, enter this password, which is more than 8 characters, click on OK button. It should not be accepted. It should maybe show a error message saying that the username or the password that you entered is incorrect. Please enter again, right? So whatever message has to be displayed, even that also will be coming from the requirements. It's not that it is not that you can display whatever you want. Okay, whatever you want. So the error messages or the warning messages also have to be according to the requirements. Now if developer is showing something, then that's again a defect. The error messages also are according to the FSD. So to test all this, what we do is we write it down. So that set of document is what we call it as a test case, as rightly mentioned by most of you, that it will have an objective, it will have the steps, detailed steps, and what is the input data that you need to feed, and then the expected result, what should happen. All of this put together basically makes a test case, right? So to test the username field, you might have written say 5 test cases. To test the password field, you might have written, let us say, 8 test cases. To test the cancel button, you might have written 3 test cases. So that means when the development is happening, what you do is you utilize the time and then come out with this test case document saying, okay, once the application is given to us, we will be testing this login page with all these test cases. So once the application comes to you, then what you do, you just take the application and then just do whatever the test case says. If the test case says open the browser, you open the browser. Enter this, click on this, click on this. Whatever is the expected result, see whether that is there or not. If it is not, then maybe you can report it as a defect. So now the question comes to your mind, maybe why do we need to write it down? So why do we need to write the test cases? Right? So you just take the application and then just think at that point in time and then, do the testing straight away. Now, why are you writing the test cases for doing testing? Any answers for that? Why are we writing test cases?
It will be used for the regression testing purposes. Because at the given build, at one build, maybe that the test case passes, and for the next build, where the build is given after the issues has been resolved and given, the second build will not allow us to ensure that whatever worked in the previous build works. So that is why we need to have a proof to ensure that whatever was working earlier also works now.
Wonderful, great answer, Sangeeta. I'll take that. Anybody else? Why are we writing the test cases? So you said few things. One is build, and then one is regression testing. Right. Any other answers? Why are we writing it down? Why don't we directly do the testing on the fly? Take the application and do the testing straight away. Why do you need to document it? Yeah, Ketan.
Yes, actually, what happens that whenever we are developing the applications and testing, then if we are writing the test, if we have wrote the test case, then we can identify that how much application is tested and how much testing are pending. If we do not have the test cases, then we cannot identify the things that how much we have covered. So it is necessary to write the test case if possible.
Wonderful.
And also, I would like to add one more, sir.
Yeah, please.
Each and every requirement, there should be a test case written. So if we test without the document, there will not be any, proof for us to say that we have tested all the requirements as per the specification.
Excellent. I'll take that answer, Sangeeta. I believe most of you agree with that. So what happens is, see, if you don't write it down, okay, so what happens, these many requirements are there, right? So if you don't write a test case, then you don't know whether you have really covered all the requirements or not. See, at the time of testing, when the application has already come to you for testing, you just keep the requirement document and then keep doing testing. There's a high chances that you may miss out some of the requirements. So that is why when you have time and the development team is still doing the development, what you do is you cover all the requirements and then write test cases for each of them, right? And ensure that all the requirements are covered. Why? Because these are the requirements which are derived from the business requirements of the customer, right? So the most important reason why do we need to write down the test case is to ensure that whether every requirement is covered by the test case or not. At least one test case, believe me, if a requirement is there, at least if you have one test case for that, that will ensure that you are testing that requirements at least once. If you don't even have a test case for a requirement, that means you're not even testing that anymore, right? And that could have a bug. Okay, so that is the main reason, to ensure that every requirement is covered by at least few test cases. You will get to know whether everything is covered or not. Then, as some of you are mentioning about regression testing and build and all that, so maybe I will have to take you through that for a couple of minutes now. So now see here. So when the projects kind of get started, okay, so what happens is the team, the development team, the entire team, which has few developers, QA, and so you have your business analyst, and then you have your database engineers and the operations team and all that. The entire team will start the activity now, so that the process gets started, and the development team will start doing the development. Now see, from here the requirements and all gathered, the development team will start the development activities. So now what happens, development team will add 2-3 small features, and then they give the application to you. Now these 2-3 features that the development team has added, they will be in the testable conditions. That means they should be in a position that the testing team should be in a position to test them. They should not be simply a half kind of developed and all that, right? So they should be completely working, functioning, but they are only one or two features. That's it, not the complete application. So now, we use a term here called as a build. So what is a build? How do we define it? The build is nothing but the executables of the application, or the deliverables. The deliverable, meaning, so you imagine that you need to download, install a game software on your machine. So what you do, you download the game from the internet. Maybe it's on a mobile device, APK file, or maybe it's a exe file on your Windows PC. Just download it and install it. So this exe that you get downloaded, that's what is a build. Build is nothing but the executable of the application. In our case, we also get the build, but the thing is, this build is not a complete application build. It's just a small features of that. Maybe build number 1.0 usually builds a version number so that you can track them. So in build number 1.0, you have got maybe few features. Login feature is there, home page is there, logout is there, settings are there. So that's it. Once it comes to you, you do the testing. The testing team would have written the test cases, execute all of them. And if any of the test cases are failing, report the defect to the development team. Now, what the development team is doing, so this goes hand in hand like this, okay? So most of you are aware of Agile nowadays. So what happens is, development team is developing the new features. At the same time, they are fixing the bugs or the defects. These two terms are interchangeably used, okay? Bug is just an informal term, defect is a formal term. So you can use them, whichever way you want. So development testing team has reported some defects. Development team will fix them, and they will add new features and then give the another build to you. So now build number 1.0 was there. Now 1.1 will come to you. So once you finish testing on 1.0, you reported all the bugs. Development team will take 1 or 2 days time, and then they fix all of them. They'll give a new build to you. Then in new build, what is there? All the defects that were raised by the testing team earlier, most of them got fixed. Some of them maybe need some time. They will take it in the coming builds, but most of them got fixed. And then there are some new features also added. So this plus this is what is there in the new build. Okay, so now once the new build comes to the QA team, what you do, you take out your test cases and then execute all of them. And then in case, the first thing that you have to do is whatever defects that you reported in the build 1.0 and ensure that they are properly fixed. Now this is what is called as retesting. Retesting means what? You're just ensuring that all the defects that you raised are properly. Initially on the build number 1.0, the cancel button was not working. Now the cancel button is working. So that means you tested it and ensured that, and you can close the defect. Okay, so once the defect is opened, and the developers will fix it, and then you have to test it, and then you have to close it. So this is a defect life cycle, is what we call it as. Okay, so it's a big life cycle that the defect has, but this is a general happy path kind of a scenario. Now, so on every build, what is the testing team going to do? They will do the retesting and then close the defects, and then they move on and test the other features, new features which are given to us by the development team. So now again, you might find some defects or not. If you find, report it. If not, I mean, there will be defect for sure. Okay, there is no software which is defect free. So you again report all the defects, and the development team will again take out some time and then give the new build. So this goes on and on. Imagine that if you have not written the test cases for that, what will happen? Every time whenever the build comes, you have to open the requirement document. And by the time, maybe some of the QA folks or testing engineers have left the company, or they joined to some different teams, then other guy will come. He will have to go through the entire requirement document to understand that. It's a big pain. So if you have clear and crystal clear test cases, anybody can take it and execute it, right? So that is the reason of writing the test cases. Okay. So one is for coverage, one is for ensuring that you quickly test and don't miss out any requirements. Okay. So now this is how the cycle goes: build number 1.1, 1.2, 1.3. So like that, depending on the number of features that you have, it might go up to build 50, 100, any number of builds it can be, depending on the defects that you're raising, depending on the size of the application. So now once all the features are implemented, and this cycle goes on and on, and since always remember, it's incremental. It's incremental. Any development is incremental. other than your waterfall model wherein the entire application is given to you at once. Mostly the development is incremental. Development team will develop something, give it to you, you test it, report the defects. They will again add new features, again fix the bugs, and then give the new build to you. Again you do the testing. This cycle goes on and on and on. Once all the features are implemented and most of the defects are fixed by the development team, then they give the final build to you. They say that, okay, boss, this is the build. It has entire application now. Complete application. There's a database, it can be integrated with the database, it can talk to the database, and so everything is functional now. So now what you do is, on this final build, what we do is, we do one round of complete testing. Now that is basically called as system testing, or it's also called as end-to-end testing. Because now why do we have to test it is, this is the entire application now which is going to be going to the customer, right? So that is why you have to one round of complete testing on this. See, all these days you have been testing the individual builds which are specifically there for a few features. So now all the features are integrated. Now it's a complete code base is there. So you have to ensure that you test your application, basically from one end to another end. For example, initially you might have just tested login, and then maybe you might have tested just creating a new account, or maybe fund transfer or logout or settings. So now you may have to cover all of them through one big end-to-end scenario, which is covering most of the areas. If this end-to-end scenario is working, then maybe you can say that, okay, the application is working fine, right? So on the final build, you will be doing one round of end-to-end testing. Okay, and then maybe depending on the application, if it's going to be used by a lot many users, you may have to do the performance testing also, just to ensure that the performance is not broken. The performance means basically the stability or the time that the application is taking to respond to the users. So that performance testing also, you do it on the complete application. There is a final build. You don't do it on an individual builds that you get. Okay, because you have to test the application as a whole. So any testing that you do on the entire application, that is basically they are termed as system testing. Remember that. So what do we mean by system testing? You are testing the system as a whole. That is why it is called a system testing. The front end, the back end, the database, everything is integrated. So any testings that you do on the complete application, they are called as system testings, right? So end-to-end testing also, if you just see here what you're doing in end-to-end testing, more or less they are same. Okay. So end-to-end testing means you're identifying some end-to-end scenarios and then covering those, executing those scenarios, right? So that you can just confidently say that, okay, from one end to another end I tested this working fine. One end to another end I tested this way, this is also working fine. One end to another end I tested this way, this is also working fine. So that is again is done on the entire system. Okay, so now here, once you test the all system testings on the final build, then you report the defects and again development team will fix it. Again you do the retesting and then finally release the application to customer. Our Royal Bank of Scotland has been waiting for the application to come. So he will also do one round of testing, by the way. Remember, see, customers, just like that, they don't accept whatever you give, right? So when you go to market to buy a pen, which is not that expensive, just a small pen, you take the pen, write and see whether it's writing or not. If it is writing, then only you will buy, otherwise you will not buy, right? So now this guy has given a multi-million-dollar project to you, right? So he will also wants to test it. But this guy doesn't know how to do testing. Okay, maybe he's very good in his business, but he may not be a software professional, right? So, but still what he will do is the customer will do testing from his business point of view. Maybe he will try to do some fund transfer, try to put some requests, create some new accounts using the software, create, maybe a request for a checkbook, right? So put a request for a loan, things like that, just to see whether the business is, properly functioning as he expected or not. Now, this testing, which is done by the customer, is called as acceptance testing, or some people also call it as user acceptance testing, UAT, acceptance testing. If this acceptance testing passes, then only customer is going to accept the application. Okay, so what did we understand? We understood about the build, which is nothing but the executable of the application. It can be of any size, right? Meaning it can have only few features, more features, or the entire application. Everything is a build, right? That basically is a executable, executable of the application. Okay. Any questions so far? See, I know it's getting a little one-sided, believe me, but this is the initial session, okay, because this is a more or less theory. And some of you might be thinking, what is this? You know, we have joined here for what? Java and Selenium? This guy is teaching entire manual testing, which we have been doing all these days. But believe me, even though you're doing it, or some of you are not even, you know, from this background, but this will really help you. If you really do not know the big picture, imagine this is a first class and straight away you open, you know, Eclipse and start writing some Java code, you will really, you know, kind of, you know, getting lost. So I just want to ensure that I give you the big picture. Where is automation comes into use, and why is that you need to learn Selenium, and why is that you need to learn Java? From there, you know, we'll take it. Okay. Any questions so far? Any questions, anybody?
Yeah, I have a question. I just want to know the difference between integration tests and the system test that you mentioned. Does the integration test sort of tie in with the builds, or is it part of the end-to-end test or the system test?
That's a very good question. I really appreciate that. Yeah. So so let me explain that for a second. So now see what happens is, that's a great question, believe me. So now see, as I said, when the builds are given to you, few features are implemented, very few features are implemented that. So now in the second build, whatever features that were already there, on the top of it, few more features. It's always implemented. In the third build, whatever features were already developed and given to you in the earlier build, say build number 1, build number 2, and build number 3, in the build 3, there are again new features. Okay. So now there could be a possibility that you have tested this feature independently. That means you tested the functionality of that, whether it is working fine or not. You have tested that. But there could be a possibility that this feature is related to another feature which is coming over here in the third build. Okay. So what is this relationship? Just to give an example. Okay. So so just to give an example, let us say that you are developing, maybe we are talking about the banking application. Let me take that. So now there is a you know, feature here called as transfer fund or money transfer, right? And then there is another batch, you know, view balance is there, right? And then maybe, you know, setting some other, you know, features are there, right? Now money transfer is the first feature that is given to you in the build 1. So what is this says is, whatever, you know, amount that you transfer, you just select your account number, enter your amount here, and then you click transfer, it should get transfer. Whatever balance it is there, it will ensure that, you know, it is checking the balance and then it will transfer. Now when you, after transferring the money, if you just come to the view balance, then whatever money that you have transferred, the balance will have to show, it has to deduct whatever you have transferred and show the current balance now, right? But this feature was not given to you. It was only given to you, it will be only given to you in the upcoming builds, right? But when this is given to you, you have to do the testing, right? After doing the transfer, whether it's getting deducted or not, you have to see this over here. Or maybe in the statements, it has to show all of your, you know, transactions. Now statements is only coming maybe in the, you know, 7th build. So what happens is, when we do testing, so as and when we get the builds, if you see that the features are related, and if there is a relationship between these two, that is what is nothing but your integration. Okay, so this is what we call it as integration testing. Now the question is, when do you do this? So some companies, what they do is, they do it as and when the builds are given. But some companies will only focus on doing functional testing. Functional testing. But this integration testing is done maybe on the final build. Once all the features are implemented, then whatever integration scenarios that you identified between this and this, this and this, you do the testing. System testing is when you do any testing that you do on the entire system. Now see, integration testing also, you're doing it on the entire system, but the objective here is to test the relationship or the integration between two features or two modules. With this one module here, this one module here, you're testing the relationship between those two. Now that is what is integration. Now when to do that, it's a call. You cannot certainly do it on every build. If you have a build which has few features and which they're integrated and there is a flow between them, then maybe you can do integration testing. Otherwise, you will have to wait for the final build to come. Okay. But when it comes to system testing means any testing that you do on the complete system. It could be a performance, where you're testing the performance of the application. It could be the security testing, where you're ensuring that the application is secured enough. That testing also you cannot do it on the initial builds. Or it could be end-to-end testing, wherein you want to test the application, from one end to another end with different scenarios. Or it could be just to test the user friendliness of the application, see whether the entire application is user friendly or not. So any testings that you do on the entire system, they are called as system testings. The system testings have to be done on the final builds. Okay, but integration testings can be done incrementally, or they can be done on the final builds. Did I answer your question, Penny?
Yeah, that's very clear. Thank you.
Wonderful, thank you. All right, any other questions? Anybody over here? Any other questions so far? You need to ask questions, okay? Why? I'll tell you two reasons. One is you need to clear your doubts. Second thing is I will also get some small breaks, right? Otherwise, it will become totally one-sided, believe. So any other questions here? Yeah, Swati. Swati, do you have any questions?
No, Patil.
Wonderful. Ash, do you have any questions so far?
No, nothing at the moment. All good.
Well, Athira, how about you? Athira, do you have any questions? Hemant, are you good so far?
All good, Patil. Good to go.
Thank you. Sangeeta, how about you?
Nothing from me, sir.
Wonderful, thank you. Mahesh?
Everything is clear.
Wonderful, thank you. Ketan, do you have any questions?
No question for now, sir.
Wonderful, thank you. I hope I covered everyone. So now what we'll do is we'll just take a short break of about 10 minutes now. Okay, it's 5:20. So we will meet back on 5:30. Okay, just take a quick break and just refresh yourself. Okay, and then we will meet at 5:30. Then we'll just continue for some more. I know this is the initial session. I really don't want to keep it very long, but just to give a complete picture, and then we'll see what is automation and why are we learning automation, and then we'll just start the Java part and then leave it there so that we can take it from the next week. Okay, so 10 minutes break, and it's 5:22 in my laptop now, so we'll be meeting back at say 5:35. Okay, so 30 minutes break. All right, so please refresh yourself and come back in 10 minutes. Okay guys, thank you. I'll be on mute, and yeah, I'll start in another 10 to 12 minutes. Okay, please take break. Any idea what smoke testing is? Yes, please.
Mock testing means what we are checking the overall application, the main features, like we are just clicking on all objects and all those things which we can which is visible, and check that it is working. There is no broken in the build, and we can continue for testing.
Wonderful. I'll take that. Ketan. Thanks. Any other answers? What is smoke testing is? All right.
Yeah, I suppose it's checking the essential building blocks are working of the main application overall.
Excellent. I'll take that, Ash. Yes, that's a perfect answer. Yes. So yeah, so that's what even Ketan was trying to tell. You're right. Both of you are right. See, basically, whenever you get the build, right, you got the build from the development team. It has say many features, 4 or 5 features or 6 features. It's increasing in the size, but when you get the build and the build is deployed in your test environment, so we use the term deployment, right? So some of you are from operations, you are well versed with this deployment, right? So when I say deployments, maybe you can take it now for installed. So when the build is installed on your testing environment, and now you guys jump on testers and then start doing the testing, executing your test cases. Now you started testing this, then you got to know that there's some basic problem over here. You only realize it after 2 days. But that is why what we do is, when we get the build, once the build is installed or deployed more appropriately, so what we do is we do the basic, so imagine that, you have written close to say 500 or say 1500 functional test cases for the entire application. So maybe out of this around 20-30 test cases, you pick them which are basically covering the basic functionalities like logging in, whether you're able to connect to the database or not, whether all the modules are getting loaded or not, right? And whatever basic functionalities which are there. So that would usually not go beyond, I would say it will be close to 3 to 4% of your overall test cases, should not be more than that ideally. So you just do basic testing, right? Execute very few test cases before you actually start testing on the whole build. If these basic things are working fine, then you can say that okay, the things are good now, then you can continue with the rest of the testing. Okay, so now testing the basic functionality or functionality of important features, very important features, few features which are there, right? So testing the basic functionality or testing the functionality of important feature on every new build that you get. Okay, so you will be basically doing this testing on every new build. Okay, every new build that you get, so you will be doing the testing, okay, so of these important features. And then once the features are working fine, then what you do, you continue with the rest of the testing. Now this testing is what is called as the smoke testing. Okay, this is basically called as smoke, or some people also call it as sanity. More or less they are same. Okay, so even though sanity is little rigorous smoke, I would say, but otherwise more or less they are same. So testing the basic functionality of the application on every new build. Now why do you do that? Just to make sure that the build is testable. You can continue with the rest of the testing. If the build is, if any of the basic things itself is not working fine, then there's no point in continuing the testing, right? Because at any point in time you might be blocked. That is why what you do, you just do the testing on the new build, do the smoke testing and ensure that the basic things are fine, then continue. If the smoke testing itself fails, then you will have to reject the build. Okay, so smoke testing is a very important testing, especially from the automation point of view. Why? Because this is something that has to be done on every new build that you get. So on a typical application, depending on the size and the planning that goes, maybe you might have close to 150 builds. Now you may have to do that on every new build, which is maybe it's taking deployment and then plus testing and all that, maybe half a day time. Right, so this is one of the candidates for automation. So we'll just leave that aside for now. Okay, so smoke testing, hopefully it's clear to all of you. Now we also have something called as regression testing. Any idea what regression testing is? Anybody? What is regression is? Atira?
So this is a test that is carried out after, well, for every release, and is to ensure that the application still works with new features have been integrated. So, for example, if you have a release with X amount of features, you would carry out a test for the entire system, and then after a couple of weeks, you have another release. You carry out the same test to ensure that the application still works after you've added new features onto it.
Excellent. Excellent. I'll take that, Penny. Yes, so you are absolutely right. So now, so let me try to put it like this. So now see here, as we discussed, okay, there's some confusion, among the test engineers that, I have just used the term earlier called something called as retesting. Now, what is this retesting? This is your requirements. Development team has given you a build. You just written a test case and executed that. You found a defect and report it back to the development team. Development teams gives you another new build. You again do the retesting. That means whatever fix that they have given, you are just verifying that whether the fix is properly working or not. That is what is retesting is. Retesting means you are executing the same test case which got failed. You are just verifying whether the defect fix is properly working or not. That means you usually execute the same test case over here. And this happens usually in the subsequent builds. But when we talk about regression testing, this is always the terminology which is associated with the multiple releases. Always remember like this. Now what happens is, in a typical enterprise application, okay, so you just don't do one release, right? So what happens is, let me try to put it like this. All right, so what happens is, see, the requirements were given to you, and then you basically development team has developed the application, and then you had all the test cases that you've written, 1,500 test cases, you executed them, everything is done, integration testing is done, system testing is done. You release the application to customer will do one round of acceptance testing, then the application gets deployed onto the production, that means on the customer environment. Okay, now so now this is not the end of the product. Okay, so don't think that your customer, that is Royal Bank of Scotland in this case, will just stop everything and they'll keep using the application whatever you have given. No. So every business needs some change, some enhancements, right? And whatever application that you have given that gone into production, now there could be some bugs in that. Even though you have tested it for 6 months, still there could be some bugs in the application, and believe me, there's a fact, right? So when actually it gets deployed into production, the way the end users are going to use it, right? So there could be some bugs which you could not find it. So there could be some bugs in the application, or the business might need some changes. So customer, what he will do, the first release is over. He will come back to you after 3 months or 4 months and then say, boss, can you please make these changes? Can you add some more features over here? And maybe, modify some of the existing features over here. So we want, you to do all these changes. Now, again, the company, the team has to start the work. Now, this is a second release. In the second release, what you're doing, the development team will be focusing on these new areas, and testing team, what you'll be doing, you will be writing the test cases for these new features. Whatever these new features which are there, you have to write the test cases for that. Correct? So now once the second release starts, again the same story, you get the builds incrementally, but in the second release, what you do, you test all these newly added features. Imagine that you had written close to 300 test cases for that. You execute all the 300 test cases incrementally. It's not at one shot. Few builds incrementally. You execute all of them. And then you cannot say to the customer that, boss, we have tested only these things, newly added things, the existing things, it was already tested in the first release, we don't care, whether they're working or not. You cannot say that, obviously, right? Because So why I'm telling this is from the code point of view. When the developers add these new features, they may not be writing the entire code from the scratch. They might be using some of the existing code from the application, the same code base. Just to make sure that these things are working fine, they might have tweaked something, and that might have introduced some defects in these areas, which was already released earlier. Okay, so in the second release, you cannot say that we will only test these things, new features. No, you have to test the application as a whole now, right? Because you never know where it has broken. There could be some, impact, side effect. So that is why what we do, we once we execute this 300 test cases, we have to test the entire application once again. Meaning what? We have to execute this 1,500 test cases once again. Literally, we have to execute it. This is what is called as full regression. It depends, whether you really would like to do full regression or not. It's always safe to do full regression. You execute this 1,500 test cases, then release the application to customer. We will do acceptance testing, then it gets into production. And this is not the end of it. Believe me, this goes on and on. I was working on a product which was running for almost 10 years. Believe me, every 3-4 months, some changes. Again, do testing, regression testing. Again, release it. Again, a few more changes. Right? So these type of projects which are running over a long time, they're called as maintenance projects. Right? So maintenance, you have to maintain them. So more or less after some time, there will not be any new features and all, just bug fixes and all. You just have to fix them and give a new build. Customer will deploy it and use it. But more or less, there could be some enhancements also, bug fixes and all that. Anyways, so now in the third release, imagine that you had written around 400 test cases. In the third release, what you do, you execute 400 first. And then the backlog is increasing now. Can you see here? The regression cycle is increasing now. You have to execute 1,800 test cases once again. And the problem here is, if you ask this manual testers to test this, it is a kind of, repeated task. It's a monotonous, repeated task, right? Every release they have to do it. Every release they have to do it. They will be getting, pissed off, believe me. If you're doing regression testing again and again, you will be really pissed off. And sometimes what you do, without even testing, you will say, these test cases are passed. Right? You might have done that. Yeah, because assuming that everything would anyway work fine, because maybe just before 3 months you tested it. But internally, you never know, it could have introduced some other defects. Okay, so what is happening here is, I can see one more person joining in over here. Let me just quickly check. Okay. So regression testing is, believe me, now see, you are only spending 400 test cases you are executing for that release. But just to ensure that everything is working fine, you have to execute almost 5 times. There's 2,000 test cases, close to 2,000 test cases over here. The regression backlog increases every release. Okay, and this is what is a pain point, believe me. This is really a pain point, and this is a repeated activity. So this is when people started thinking, okay, let us do one thing. Why don't we write some programs for this? Why don't we write some scripts? Take these test cases and then let us automate them. So that when it comes to regression, let us do this testing manually, and when it comes to regression, let us execute them by means of automation. So that you don't have to physically test it, manually test it. The code will take care of that. The tool automation will take care of that. Okay. So regression testing is the main candidate for automation. And when I say regression testing, what is it? The test cases that you had already written and executed in the previous release, you will be executing the same test cases in the current release, just to make sure that whatever changes that you're doing in the current release, they are not breaking the existing features. Okay, so that is what is rightly said by Penny and others as well. So regression testing is basically executing the same set of test cases which you would have already executed in the previous release. You take them again and execute that in this release, just to make sure that the new things that are added are not breaking the existing features. Now this is what is regression testing, and believe me, this is really a hectic thing. This is really a pain point to regress or to retest everything once again. That is when people started thinking of automation. Okay, so Mainly, there are two candidates. One is your smoke testing. The other one is your regression testing. If these two things are not there, mainly it is regression. Even smoke is okay, just on a half-day effort. Maybe, you can just do some basic testing on every new build manual. That's still okay. But still, this is also an effort. But regression is a huge effort. That is when people started thinking of automation. So when I say automation, what do we do here? Is you just take the test cases, existing test cases, and then convert them into scripts or programs. So that instead of you doing the testing, you just run the programs. The program will launch the application, and whatever testings that you wanted to do, the code will do it for you. And then it will write the results for you. Okay? So this is where automation comes in. This is why all of you are learning this course, just to learn automation testing. The Selenium tool that you're going to learn is mainly used for automation testing that can help in reducing your regression cycles, or totally automate your regression cycle, so that you don't have to put any efforts for regression. Okay, so usually people say that you cover 100% automation, which is not practically possible. Even if you're able to automate 70 to 80% of your regression test cases, that's a huge achievement. That much of effort will be reduced. Okay, so what is automation? Automation is the process wherein we convert the existing manual test cases into automation scripts or programs with the help of a tool, automation tool. Okay, so what is the tool that we're going to use here is Selenium. And the Selenium is a tool. For this you have to write the code script. Now what is the language that we're going to use for that is Java. Okay, so that is why we are going to learn Java, and that's why you're going to learn Selenium. And even for smoke also, for that matter, if you automate it, every build, you just have to run your smoke suite. Okay, we use the term suite here, test suite. Suite means it's a collection of test cases, all the smoke test cases together, put together, called as smoke suite. If you want to run the smoke suite, you just automate that and trigger it. That's it. It will execute on the new bit. Similarly, regression. Okay. So why automation? It is fast. It is fast. You can quickly run. Maybe to execute 2,000 test cases, you might need, I'll tell you, maybe a team of 5 people should work for 1 month. That's when you'll be able to execute 2,000 test cases. Whereas if you execute this 2,000 test cases by means of automation, maybe 2 days, it should be sufficient. Okay, so it is fast. Then it is reliable. These are the advantages of automation, I'm telling you. Reliable means what? Whenever you execute the script again and again, it will give you the same result. If it is pass, means pass, otherwise fail. It's not like human beings. A typical manual tester, if you ask him to do the same testing again and again, he gets fed off and then say, without even testing, he'll say pass. But whereas that could be a defect there, right? So I believe most of you agree with me. So, but tool is not like that. It is very reliable and honest. It's a program, and then it is cost effective. When I say cost effective, what is it? So if I have to tell you, so automation is, don't think that automation is totally cheap or cost effective to manual testing. It's not like that. Now what happens is it depends on the releases. Okay, so if you are just having a project which is just going to go into maintenance, lot of cycles, right? So if I tell you these are the releases and this is the cost. See, manual testing, initially the cost will be less, and as and when the regression cycle increases, the regression number of releases increases, the cost shoots up, because you have to do a lot of regression testing. The cost goes high. But in the case of automation, it's not the case. Initially you will have to put some effort, because you have to hire the automation resources. Maybe there could be a tool that you might have to buy, the license of the cost of the tool, etc., trainings, etc. And then initially the cost will be high, but as and when you automate more and more stuff, the cost keeps coming down. It will not be zero, obviously. It will be somewhere over here, maybe like this, the automation testing cost. So when we say automation is cost effective, it is not zero. It is, in a long term, it really helps. If you are just going to take the requirements, do the development, testing, and then release it only one-time activity, no more code changes, no more enhancements, no more bug fixes. Maybe there's a small game. Customer says, you just develop this game and give it to me, I'm going to use it, that's all. That means for that, don't need to put any efforts for automation. Automation only gives a lot of ROI, return on investment, when you basically have a project which is going to run across multiple releases. Remember that. So automation is fast, automation is reliable, cost effective, and runs unattended. Runs unattended. When I say this, what is the meaning of this? So when you automated all your test cases, you just put all of them together, you just say run, and it will keep on running. And then, you know, before you leave for the day, you just start it, and it would have executed everything. By the time you come back in the morning, it will basically give you its results, generate results. Okay, so you don't have to be physically present over there to execute the test cases as you do it in the case of manual testing. Automation basically runs unattended. Okay, so these are some of the advantages of automation, which we'll be seeing again and again anyways down the line. It's fast, reliable, cost effective, runs unattended, etc., etc. Right? So why we are going to learn automation is, in case, not in case, there will be obviously the regression suite which will be there. You have to take the regression test cases and automate them. That is the big picture. That is going to be the big picture. Why Selenium? Okay, so now why Selenium? Right? Why is that we are choosing Selenium over here? Why not maybe some other tools? The first and foremost reason is, why is that we are choosing Selenium? Why is that, you know, you're learning Selenium over here? The reasons are, the first reason is because I know Selenium, that's why I can teach you only Selenium, right? So that's why, you know, you're learning Selenium, is that? So that's anyway there. So, but why Selenium? It's because the first thing is it is open source. So when we say open source, okay, so there's something called as free also. So can somebody tell me what is the difference between open source and free? What is the difference, or both of them are same? Is there any difference between open source and free? Anybody? Yeah, Ketan.
Open free means what's up that you can use without paying anything.
Right.
And open source means what, that you can use the code and rebuild also. You can
Wonderful.
change in.
Perfect answer. I'll take that, Ketan. Yeah. So now see, always remember, open source is also free. Okay, so that means open source means, as rightly said by Ketan, you develop a game software from internet, you just get the, you know, the exe or the executable of it, and then you just install it, it will get installed and you will be able to use it. But you will not get the source code of it. You will not get the source code, right? So that means you will not be able to do anything with the code. You just, whatever they gave you, you just use it. So, but open source means it will be free. At the same time, they will also give you the source code which was used to develop the application. So now what you can do is you can just customize that code, make some changes in the code according to your need. Maybe you may want to make some changes. You can do it yourself and rebuild the tool, and you can use that customized tool for your, you know, need. That's what is open source is. So why Selenium? The Selenium is an open source. That's the best part of it. That's why we are learning Selenium. It is free and open source. Then it supports almost all the browsers which are there in the market. And remember, Selenium is a browser automation tool. That means whatever you can run on a browser, that is a web-based applications, you can test all those web-based applications using Selenium. Selenium supports all of that. It doesn't support some desktop-based applications. Maybe, you know, if you're thinking of, you know, automating some SAP, SAP, or some other standalone applications which are installed locally on the machine, or maybe on some remote server, which cannot be opened in the browser. See, it's as simple as that. Any application which opens in a browser can be automated using Selenium. It's a browser automation tool, web automation tool. Okay, so it supports all the browsers. It supports Chrome, it supports Firefox, it supports IE, it supports Edge, it supports Opera, it supports Safari, all the browsers it supports. So that is why it has become so popular in the market. First of all, it is free, and then it supports all the browsers. Then it is platform independent. So that means when I say platform independent, the meaning here is you can automate the test cases on your Windows machine, which can run on Chrome browser, and then using Selenium, if you automated it, the same test cases can be executed. The automation can be executed on Linux or on Mac without any tweak. So that is what I mean by platform independency. So the platform independency mainly comes by the technology that you're using, right? But Selenium, because it uses it can support multiple programming languages. That is why it can also be used to run the test cases across multiple platforms. You can run it on Windows, you can run it on Mac, you can run it on Linux, you can run it on Android, iOS, etc., etc. Okay. And the fourth important point about Selenium is it supports multiple programming languages, like it supports Java, then C#, then Python, then Ruby, then JavaScript, and all the flavors of JavaScript like TypeScript, Node.js, and all that. So all these programming languages it supports. That is why, see, if you know any of these technologies, you can still automate very well using Selenium. Okay, so some of the applications, healthcare applications and all, which mostly run on the Windows-based servers, they mostly prefer to use C#, but the percentage is very less. Python with Selenium is okay, a little bit picking in the market, but Java and Selenium, this is JavaScript. Java and Selenium is still the leader in the market, very, very much leader in the market. Okay, so why Selenium? Because it's open source, free, supports multiple technologies, supports multiple browsers, and it is platform independent. So what else you want? See, Java that you're going to learn is also platform independent, and that's also open source. It is free. It's a free software. I would not say open source. It's a free software you can download and use. Selenium is also free and open source. And on the top of it, Selenium was initially designed by a company called as ThoughtWorks. I think most of you might have heard of it. Selenium initially, it was basically Selenium 1.0, which was developed by ThoughtWorks. It was way back, somewhere in around 2004 or so. Then after that, Google started using it because thanks to ThoughtWorks, they made it open source. And a lot of companies, started using that for their web testing. Google also started using it for their testing. They realized that it's a very potential tool. Then Google started heavily contributing to it. And in fact, ThoughtWorks, said, boss, you are anyway using it a lot, maybe you can contribute. And Google kind of took over that. It's not when I say took over because it's open source, anybody can contribute. And Google heavily started investing in that. And then after a lot of changes and all, Google released one version of Selenium, which is called as Selenium 2.2. So this is basically called as Selenium WebDriver. Selenium 1.0 was called as Selenium RC, remote control, which is a very kind of absolute. Now it's still there, but hardly people are using it. And later on, with the Google's customization, modification and all, Selenium 2.0 was released. It was again long back. So I would say this is somewhere around 2008 or 9. And after that, this became further popular because Google started investing, and Google itself is using, it's a pioneer leader on the web. So everybody started believing that tool and then started using it. And then later on, somewhere around 2011, Google made again few more changes, few more enhancements, bug fixes and all. They released Selenium 3.0 WebDriver, latest version. So this 3.0 has really made a revolution, and most of the web testing is being switched to this. Right, a very powerful, again from Google. So it is open source, free, supports multiple browsers, platform independent, supports multiple technologies, and on the top of it you have a support from a company like Google. When I say support, Google is developing, adding, fixes and making changes and all. Then anyway, it's not that it's Google's proprietary, but it's open source. Anybody can contribute, but Google is heavily contributing. So that is why Selenium has become so popular. So if somebody asks you why Selenium, why not some other tool, right? You don't have to pay anything, no cost of license, no cost of technology. You don't have to buy license for any of these technologies, right? So platform independent, and on the top of it, being maintained by Google. So absolutely free, right? So whatever cost that you're going to pay here for learning, that's it. You can use this tool forever, believe me. Okay, so that is why it is Selenium. And why Java? Selenium and Java makes a great combination. Java is a very, very popular open source, free software or technology for development of the applications. So that is why we are using Java. Okay. So this is what is the big picture is. I know it was a long theory and story, but believe me, this was very, very much required. If I would have started straight away writing the program and telling that this is how you write a Java code and this is how you compile, this is how you run, it might be difficult for you to basically get it from there. Okay, so now the big picture has been put in front of you. So now what we will be doing from the next session is we will be only focusing on core Java. Next 35 hours we will be only talking about Java. You will be literally forgetting what is Selenium is. You don't even have to remember that. Now you know the big picture. Why are you doing this course? Why are you learning Java? Once you know this, now the rest of the sessions will be only on Java. From next session onwards, you'll be writing a lot of programs. Okay, and once the Java is over, then we will be taking the Selenium part. Okay. Any questions here, anybody? I have taken a lot of time now. I know it was too much of theory, but any questions here, anybody? Any questions?
Hello.
Yeah, please.
Ketan here. Actually,
Ketan,
I have one question.
Yeah.
Just to know that websites are developed in different languages like Java, .NET, so PHP. So what I want to ask that every website can we automate using Java?
Yes.
Selenium with Java?
Yes. See, anything.
Even though it is not developed by even though it is not developed using Java.
Yes, correct. That's a great question. I really take that. So yes, so Selenium has a very, very good support for most of the web technologies. Okay, so some of the Angular based applications are little tricky to automate using Selenium, but more or less whatever has been automated using Java, that is JSPs and servlets, and C# ASPs, right, and then .NET, and then all your Python web pages, all of that can be automated, right? JavaScript, everything. Only thing is some bottleneck, especially with the Angular kind of technologies, which are nowadays little popular, but slowly and steadily they are also getting supported. Okay, so for now the answer is yes. Whatever is the web application, you will be able to automate it using Selenium. So it is not that if the application is developed using, for example, say C#, you have to use Selenium with C#. Nothing like that. If the application is developed using C#, you can still automate it using Selenium with Java. If the application is automated using Java, developed using Java, you can automate it with Selenium with C#. That's fine. This is the technology that you're choosing for automation. It need not be the same technology which is used down the line. But ideally, companies would prefer in that way because they already have some expertise in that. Okay, so that's why they prefer that. But otherwise, if you learn Selenium using Java, you can automate any web-based application.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Thanks, Ketan. That was a great question. Yeah. Any other questions here, anybody? Any other questions? I will start from maybe, see, this is the initial sessions. Okay, so I usually take some time, one session or two sessions like that, so that just to, so that our frequencies are matched and you get to know, so how is the trainer, whether I just would like to see whether you're able to understand or not understand. You need some more explanation, you need some more examples, right? So once that is cleared, because I will be kind of taking various batches. I do take corporate trainings, so wherein there are already people coming exclusively from testing side. I just have 2 full weekends there. I just need to go and complete Java for them, or maybe another 2 weekends for Selenium. So there the picture is more or less clear. But here, this is my own course, right? I would like to take you from the scratch, hold your hands and make you till the final, the session wherein we will be learning complete Selenium automation with lot of different types of frameworks, right? And you'll be learning all the other technologies along with the Selenium. We'll also be learning Git, which is a version control tool. So what and all you'll be learning, it's not just Selenium, it's not just Java Selenium. So once you learn Java, after that you'll be learning Selenium basic tool, how to use, what are the different features of Selenium, what and all you can automate using Selenium. And then you will also be learning there's something called as Maven, which is called as a build tool or a dependency injection tool for Java. So we'll see what is that. Some of you might be knowing. In case if you don't also, no worries. We'll be learning from the scratch. And then you'll be learning there's a framework called as Retesting. It's a unit testing framework. We will be learning this Retesting from the scratch till the advanced level. Then you'll be learning there's something called as Git. It's a version control system. Okay, source code management. So what is Git? How to use Git? How do we integrate, our Selenium with Git? All of that will be covered. Okay, and then not only this, so we will also be covering some different types of frameworks. What is a framework? How to use it? How to develop the frameworks? Again, as I said, there will be separate sessions for that. So, but for over here, so we will be learning different types of framework. There's something called as a hybrid framework. There's something called as a keyword-driven framework. There's something called as page object model. Some of you might be familiar with these terminologies, but I'll just assume that you don't know anything. So page object model, and what else? So you will also be learning about, there's something called as Cucumber framework, page object model, keyword driven, hybrid. Okay, so then after all this, you'll also be learning there's something called as Jenkins. Some of you are coming from operations, you might be knowing about this. Jenkins is basically called as a continuous integration tool, and so that is mainly used for creating and scheduling some jobs which can run and then produce whatever results that you want. Maybe it can run an automation job for you. We'll see what is Jenkins in detail. And then we'll also be doing some kind of miscellaneous things like we'll be trying to integrate Java. We'll be writing code to Java, integrating with MySQL database or Oracle database. This is called as JDBC. We'll be learning this. Okay, so we'll also be seeing how do we take the data from an Excel file, read the Excel file data using Java. So there are many things down the line, believe me. So see what some people do, let me be more open to you. So most of the institutes, what they're doing is they're teaching Java, maybe not too very deep, but whatever is required superficially, for Selenium, they'll teach that. And then basics of Selenium, maybe 1 or 2 things over here. Rest of these things, what they do is they're not covering along with the Selenium. What they're doing? They're saying it as advanced Selenium, one more package for that. So you have to enroll separately for that. That is advanced Selenium training, wherein they'll be teaching you a lot of different types of frameworks, Cucumber, Jenkins, GitHub, and other stuff. But for me, it's all integrated. Okay, so there's only one course, Java and Selenium, where from the scratch everything would be covered. No basic and advanced and all. Everything is from basic. Everything is still advanced. Okay, so you will get to know everything, whichever is required for attending interviews by mentioning 3 years of experience in Java and Selenium. Okay, so everything in Selenium would be covered. All right, I feel I've spoken enough for now. Yes, let us go one round quickly. I would like to free off people from little far first. Ash, so do you have any questions? Or so far, whatever we discussed today, is that clear to you, Ash?
Yeah, pretty good. Good to get a good knowledge of sort of basic testing, regression testing. Learned a few things here. It's all good.
Wonderful. Were you able to understand? Was the flow clear? Was the explanation clear to you, Ash?
Yeah, I think it was. I think once we got into the idea of why, it started to become clear why we use Selenium for testing, and how automation testing helps things a lot more.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thanks, Ash. Thanks for that. All right, Penny. What about you? So, were you able to follow?
Yeah, I was able to follow, and like Ashley said, learn some few things that I didn't really know before. But yeah, everything was clear.
Wonderful. Was my explanation was I know you were able to understand. Do you think you need maybe some more explanation or more examples, or was the speed okay?
Yeah, the speed was fine, and everything was clear. You explained everything well.
Thanks about that, Penny. Thanks a lot. All right, Athira. So yeah, maybe it's your time. So was it clear to you, Athira? Maybe it might be little basic for you, but any questions? Do you have any feedback, Athira?
Hi, Patil. Yeah, it was a good session. So I could go back to my basics and refresh all the concepts.
Okay, wonderful. Were you able to follow all that, Athira? So you have any feedback?
No, the pace was absolutely good.
Okay, wonderful. Thanks about that. Thank you. Who's next? Hemant. Yeah, Hemant. So
yeah, hi Patil. Yeah, so it
yes,
was like quite comprehensive overview of the testing and all that. It was
right.
like quite enlightening for that. Yeah.
Wonderful. Thanks, Hemant. Thank you. Who's next? Swati.
Yeah, hi Patil. It was nice, uh, but I would say like if there are some more examples that would really help. For example, the examples which we see in the projects. So if we could, it would be more easier to relate if there are examples like that. So I'm sure from next class you will be adding some examples.
Yes. Thanks for that, Swati. Yes. So basically, this was something that is away from, apart from your regular core Java and Selenium. Okay. So this is something that I cover, so that I give. This is a kind of pre-launch kind of a thing. Okay. So I expect everyone to know all this, because some of you are coming from different background. I had to do this. It's not that I do this on every batch, for every batch. That's why I usually take this initial introduction in the beginning. Where are you coming from? What is your background and all that, right? So I do agree with that, Swati. Maybe this was maybe very basic or elementary examples to teach what is testing and all. But when it comes to Selenium down the line, yes. So there are plenty of examples. Don't worry about that. This is just to give you a platform on what is testing and all, and why are we kind of going for automation. Okay. Is it okay, Swati? So I do in fact want to have maybe a separate video series created and recorded and uploaded to YouTube, just for people who are coming from other backgrounds, so that they can watch 3-4 session videos and then understand what is testing is, then come back and attend this, something like that. But otherwise, I just had to give a big picture in just one session. I do agree with that. Yeah, so down the line, you don't have to worry. As far as Java and Selenium goes, for the examples and all that, you don't have to absolutely worry.
Yeah, I'm good with it, Patil. So
Thanks, Swati. Thank you. Thanks for that. Who's next? Sangeeta, you'd like to say anything?
It was good, even though we have experience on the testing background for long years.
Right.
Just in case if we try to attend an interview, for example, then this session actually helped me a lot to brush up my, definitions, etc., on attending the simple interview questions, to be very open and frank here.
Right, right. I totally agree with you, Shagita. Yes, people who have experience, right? So what happens is we'll be kind of stuck with some regular kind of routine tasks, right? But this is giving you a complete big picture that will make you, boost up your confidence. Yeah, I do agree. Thanks about that. Mahesh, do you have anything to say?
No, sir. I don't have any question. I'm good with this.
Were you able to understand, Mahesh?
Yeah, yeah. I'm able to.
Wonderful. Thanks, Mahesh. Ketan, you would like to say anything? I think mostly I've covered everything. Ketan?
No, sir, it's okay. Actually, I understood all the things. It's good for me.
Wonderful. Thanks, Ketan. Thanks a lot. Yeah. So I think we have more or less covered almost 2.5 hours today, which is okay to start with. Ideally, it should be around 3.5 hours, believe me, with one more break in the middle. But just being the initial, week, so I really don't want you to put in a lot of effort. So what we'll be doing is from next week, I'll maybe slowly increase a little bit of pace. Okay, if you go by this pace, then maybe it will not even take 90 hours. It needs 900 hours. Okay, so slowly, this will be the pace. It means maybe just a little bit accelerator I have to press. Okay, and from next week onwards, it will be more or less programs that we'll be writing. So right, and you don't have to worry about the speed and the examples and all. I'll take care of that. Okay. And next Saturday, we will be meeting 6:30 p.m. IST is what most of you have agreed. I hope all of you are fine with that. See, I am sticking to this weekend, okay? So unless the batch is formed, I was not sure whether it's going to be weekend batch or weekdays batch or a morning batch or evening batch. Now, because yesterday most of you kind of confirmed me that you're okay on the weekends, that is why I'm considering this as a weekend batch. Okay, so we will be exclusively meeting only on Saturdays and Sundays. And in case if there is a backlog, if we have to somehow cover some topics, then maybe we may have to meet on the weekdays. That too, when everybody is okay. Okay, not that some of you are able to come, some of you are not able to come. Right? In case if there's some backup sessions are required, then maybe we will try to have some sessions. That too, not immediately. Okay. So I don't have any plans on any weekends as of now, but just to be more open to you, because I do have a plan on this weekend, 25 and 26. Because to be very open to you, I was thinking that this batch is going to be an evening batch or a morning batch. I only got to know that this is going to be a weekend batch only yesterday. Okay, when one of you said that you want it on the weekends. So I have my brother's marriage. So even I would have somehow managed only for one day, but I booked the tickets long back. So other than this weekend, 25 and 26, I don't have any plans until your batch gets over. Okay, so even that also I'll try to see if I can maybe carry my laptop and manage the sessions from there. But as of now, that's the only weekend that I'm not available. Otherwise, rest all weekends I'm available. No plans as of now. And I will not make any plans also. Even if I make, I'll ensure that I'll come back and take your sessions. Okay, so other than that, everything will go as per the plan. I will just leave these two sessions, whatever kind of an introduction sessions that we took yesterday and today. So from leaving this, I would say, we should not include this. So 35 hours for Java and maybe 45 hours for Selenium, right? So close to 80 hours is what we have to spend. So 80 hours if I have to spend, then if we spend somewhere around, say, 3.5 hours on Saturday, 3.5 hours on Sunday, that will become 7 hours. Then 10 weekends will make 70 hours. Another, maybe one more weekend after that. So close to 12 weekends is what we have to meet. Okay, so now you can calculate how much, long the course is going to go. Maybe 2.5 months, Yeah, from today, 2.5 months is what you can take. Okay. It may look little more, but believe me, this is going to help you throughout your career, because you are planning to mention 3 years of experience in your resume. Okay, and to reach that level, you need to put in at least 2.5 hours. See, it is again up to you. If you would like to attend on the daily basis 1.5 hours every day, then maybe this can get over a little early. But because it's going to be weekend, so that it gives you a perfect balance for attending your job and then spending some time on the weekends. But believe me, you will have to sacrifice your weekends. I know it's, for now you are really passionate and you would like to do it. You're little over exaggerated, I mean enthusiastic, I would say, to do this. Yeah. So but down the line, maybe sometimes the priorities would change. Maybe you will have some other things to take care. But please ensure that you don't miss the classes, and attend it regularly and practice it. See, now it was just the theory. So now what I'll do, I'll take this code, I'll take this video and upload it into the YouTube, and I'll share the link with all of you, right? And then what we do is, whatever code that is there today, there's no code. Yeah. So ideally, I'll be sharing the code and then putting it, or sharing it with all of you over the GitHub or maybe over your email, so that you can download and practice, right? And then we have already created a WhatsApp channel. So I request all of you, whoever has not shared your details with me, please share your phone numbers. Okay, let me once again put that over here. It is okay, so my number is 8904707877. This is my personal number. I'm just using it for a few more days. I will be sharing you another number with all of you. But still, till then, you can just do a WhatsApp to me and say that I got a message from Penny today. I will add you to the group, Penny. And Ash, can you please share your WhatsApp number with me, so that I can add it, add yours. And I think I've added most of you others. Mahesh, yeah, mostly I've added everyone. So in case if you're not there in the group, please share me. I'll add all of you. And then, as I said, my channel is Patil, all small case, Patil -Java -Selenium. So this is my YouTube channel. So please search this channel and please subscribe to this, because I really would like all of you to subscribe to this, so that you keep getting the intimations, right? So you'll keep getting the information about my channel. This is my channel. So as of, see, I have been into this training almost for the past 10 years now, but onto this online training and all, on something on my own, this is little recent. Okay, all these days I was taking corporate trainings and classroom sessions and all that. Okay, so this is my channel, Patil Java Selenium. As of now, there are 284 subscribers. I would request all of you to subscribe. One reason is you will keep getting the notifications, and down the line. So I have a lot of plans, to be very open to you. I do have plans to start automation, course for web services, REST API automation, right? And I do have a plan for Python, okay, down the line, and maybe database, SQL, DB testing, right? So there are a lot of plans. Maybe performance testing. Maybe it will time will tell, depending on the amount of time that I'm able to spare. So that if you subscribe, you keep getting the intimations. Okay, and not only that, once I cross 1,000 subscribers, and then maybe based on every watched minute, or depending on the number of watch hours and all that, YouTube will start paying me some little amount. That will be very, very negligible. That will only can go high with the too many viewers. But my channel is restricted. It's not restricted though. Anybody can use it. Feel free to share with your known groups, colleagues, and also that let them subscribe. Let them also watch and learn. See, if anybody is remote and if anybody cannot attend the classes and all, they can still learn using the channel itself. That will be sufficient. But I would request all of you to please subscribe, and then please keep watching, and please help me to reach good number of subscribers, so that this is just a contribution to the open source community. Okay, it is just that because Java is open source, Selenium is open source, everything is open source, right? So this is just a small effort from my end to help the open source community, to let them learn automation. If this is helpful for them, it will be helpful. Okay, so I have created a playlist. The one playlist that I've created yesterday for your batch is weekend batch 3, January 2020. Okay, so this is a batch that you should be referring to. Okay, so when you open this, so this is what you'll be referring to. So I just uploaded the yesterday's video over here. Okay, so yeah, let me pause it. So so already 25 views for this. I don't know, maybe some of you are watching, or I don't know who is watching. That is really good. And I also encourage you just to, if you really liked it, I don't want you to just like and comment just because you're my students. So you just write comments and put likes, dislikes, whatever you feel, so that it gets more notice on the YouTube. Okay, so it has to come up on the search, right? This is just a sincere request to subscribe to my channel and help me to reach more and more subscribers. Please share in your communities, groups. If you're happy, then share it. If you're not happy, then don't share. And coming to the last part, usually I don't talk about this in the class fees and all, but just to kind of